Hey Simon,
Hey, dude. How's it going?
how's it going? Good. How are you? How's the
Good,
morning?
good.
All
Wednesday,
right.
Wednesday,
Well,
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Let's jump in. Okay, so we are starting a bit of a new format for everyone that's listening. We got some feedback that I think has been helpful, and so we're kind of changing the format a little bit. Instead of the sort of longer form 30 minutes, we're going to cut down to about 15 minutes. Having said that, the topic that we wanted to chat about today, we're kind of going to break it down into three parts, and it's all about design systems. Every company thinks they have a brand, but if you open their Slack or any of their other software, you'll find 15 versions of their logo, different button styles, fonts no one can name or remember where they were used, and it's chaotic. And I think as we start getting into the world of incorporating AI, all of this chaos has a tendency to is going to have a tendency to explode.
Yeah, like as all of this starts scaling across organizations' design surface, operation surface, like the bigger part of the story isn't necessarily the slop design that we're going to get. It's that your website, your ads, your decks, emails, like everything you output to the public and internally is just built by so many different people with different tools, and there's no shared rule book. Maybe at the enterprise level, maybe, but this like mid-market level of organization, we're just not seeing any of that. And that is a huge design problem. It's a big risk. And yeah, we're going to talk about it today. So I don't know, before we jump in, I think there's a lot that's catalyzed this conversation for us. Like, what's actually changed here?
Um, I think there's a couple different things. I mean, I feel like um, it's always been an issue, but it's starting to expand. You've got like two organizations. I think organizations that are locking down brand, but that means they can't move as fast, and then other organizations that are prioritizing speed and sort of like independent decision making. Um, so they can move fast, but then they have just a chaos environment of brand identity, brand sets. Obviously, like AI tools and how organizations incorporate AI tools into their workflows potentially makes things worse with marketers spinning up landing pages, more designs, engineers pushing web updates. I think in the past, the web used to be a bit more of a bottleneck. You needed more technical resources. And so that was a bit more controlled, and that's disappearing now too. Um, and yeah, I think like the organizations that are have less parameters around their brand identity and brand system and design systems are moving fast, but it's really just speed leading to disaster if you don't have systems around that speed.
Yeah.
What's
Like,
the what do you typically see?
I mean, we've always talked about like the importance of having a design system. It's often parts of our scope of work. Um, but it just seems like the big change this past 24 months has just been like people prompting more. And I think AI has just catalyzed that because if you're prompting without a concrete design system, you end up with like messy emails, stylistic drift. You know, if your sales deck never had templates, how are you going to expect AI or even someone internally to actually create that final deck? So we've always had templates, we've always had systems. I mean, some companies have never had any of that, and they're
A
just
lot of
like
companies.
duplicating the last deck and the last deck and the last deck. So like in terms of what I see with the organizations we work with, it shows itself with just a simple ask like, do you have a brand guide? Often the answer is no, right? We have a color palette and we have a font and we have a logo, right? That is not a design system. It's barely even classified as a brand guide. So a lot of businesses are playing catch up right now, and they're playing catch up because they see people doing this automation, doing these prompts, and they're seeing that aesthetic drift in everything because AI doesn't have a system to refer back to. And AI needs that context. So I think it's thrown a lot of the gas on these conversations, seeing it on LinkedIn, been seeing it on subreddits. People are getting concerned that they're behind the curve when it comes to having a design system. So, yeah, I mean, is this a design problem or would you say it's something bigger?
Um, yeah, it's a process problem. I mean, I think like smaller organizations are moving faster. I mean, we're a good example of that. We don't have like a brand manager, right? So I think smaller mid-market organizations sometimes don't have the people to be focused and they're trying to move as quickly as possible. I think like I would say in that instance, shifting your thinking to be more systems oriented is more beneficial because yes, it's some upfront work, but actually it's going to make a more cohesive scaling. It's going to give a more cohesive scaling opportunity after you do that upfront work. Yeah, and then I think like the really like the enterprise size businesses have like some semblance of this, but then it's just there's so many departmental differences that I think it breaks down a little bit in that context. Yeah, design is just basically where you see it first, right? And the web is where your customers experience it first. I think the other issue is just having a single source of truth. I think the web teams have their own components, the marketing teams have their templates, the product teams have UI, but the code departmental integration doesn't happen very easily. Um, yeah, I mean, what do you think? What do you think this actually costs organizations? I think most people think of it as an aesthetic problem, not a business problem. And that's probably why there's not as much urgency to start to think about systematizing. I would also add that you're right, like the AI portion is important to this, but that's also a systems problem because like if everyone in your organization is just prompting anything, like you don't have any standards, that has a even higher risk, I think, than a disjointed design system.
Yeah, cool. Because you're putting it in hands of someone using AI, and they could be using AI in countless different ways. Like they're prompting. Everyone has a different approach to prompting. If it's not working from a single source of truth, then you're just going to end up with a really messy outcome on the web, on your documents, anything. But yeah, I think like having a single source of truth is so important. It is just so challenging to build. And I don't think that companies really fully understand the business case. And again, AI catalyzed that conversation because it's just so hyped in media right now that I think it prompted these internal conversations, the conversations around designers. Everyone's trying to speed up their workflows. But if you're just speeding up a workflow and it's like garbage in, garbage out, then you're setting yourself up for risk. And yeah, I like this question about like whether it's a aesthetic problem or a business problem. I think the aesthetic problem is the outcome. Like the slop that you see is because of the business and systems problem internally. So it's surfacing these intangible things that everyone kind of feels that they're working through, but no one really knows how to fix because it's a systemic issue. I think one of the earliest signals you'll see is inconsistency with documents, web, and that inconsistency, as soon as your end users start seeing that as they're moving through your funnel, whatever that funnel is, that inconsistency erodes trust pretty quickly. It shows instability of the brand. It shows that you're just like not able to hold things together. It's really dangerous in our sector. Like if you're an agency and you're putting out a whole level of inconsistency things and that level of fast moving and evolving brand isn't part of your brand, then it can erode trust and it can erode your brand pretty quickly. Your website as well, from everything to like copy, data, visuals, colors, typography system, if that stuff is inconsistent, not only does it erode trust, but it also increases the level of quality assurance surface area that your team needs to now manage, right? So it's creating operational costs, it's creating reputational risk. And as we know, like trust is built just through consistency and aggregating all of these different touch points of a brand. So as things become more inconsistent, then people are just going to trust your brand less. Um, but yeah, I don't know. People throw around the term design debt. We throw it around. I think there's design debt, there's tech debt. So why don't you tell me a little bit about why you think that matters?
Yeah, I mean, I think like what is design debt? We have that really great ball of yarn cover on one of our videos where we are untangling a ball of yarn, and I think like that's like an analogy that we use a lot internally. I mean, eventually design debt gets you into trouble, right? Like a lot of the organizations that we work with, they are they've been making do. I think, we've talked about this before in previous videos, like the concept of making do, like, oh yeah, we'll just spin up this landing page completely separate to the web platform and ecosystem that we manage because it's too complicated. It's just seems like a simple, fast solve, but um, same with tech debt. Like all these small decisions just compound over time, and then you end up with what we call the ball of yarn, which is like just this mishmash of um, design and technology decisions that have put you in a really bad position to be able to grow or enable anyone within your organization. Because sometimes it's not just the website, it's internal applications and the way you actually operate the business. And it just gets to a point where it's so convoluted and stuck that you just lose efficiency. You not only lose efficiency, you lose the opportunity, you lose sometimes employees. If people are just too frustrated and feel like they can't get their job done because of the tools that they have. That really is an issue that we see quite a bit when it comes to design and technical debt, and a lot of times we're brought in to help fix that problem. But yeah, it's a slippery slope. It's not one that's easily recognizable too, because over time it just continues to compound slowly behind the scenes, and then you get to a point where everything breaks or you can't operate it anymore. Um,
Yeah. It's like it's really not felt until it hits a breaking point. Like technical debt, I think, is the most familiar thing, and that's where the term design debt is borrowed.
hmm,
Like a call I literally like just had this week was about untangling technology decisions that were made 4 years ago by a research team, and issues and incorrect calculations got carried through all of the methodology and the documentation up to the point that the project was developed once by another team and then redeveloped by our team, handed off, and the debt is still there. So we've now sat on 5 different calls as a team trying to untangle where the issues even are. And design debt is no different from that. It's like
hmm.
you're going to be rooting and hunting through all of these different artifacts and design outputs that, like, where do you even find the consistency if no one's written it down, if no one's built a system? So it can be really frustrating, even for the
What do you
vendor,
s-
and it
what
can
do you
increase costs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Right?
it's expensive, for sure,
Yeah,
and it's expensive to untangle. Um,
it's so
that's just
expensive to
it's just the
untangle.
reality. It's like we have to audit everything before even doing any work. It gets expensive.
Yeah.
Um, so what do you say to companies that are they're just moving too fast? Well, they think they're moving too fast, and they need to continue. They are prioritizing speed over
Uh,
process.
I think everyone's just trying to move really fast right now. Like everything feels like it's built on like shifting sand right now. So everyone's trying to move as fast as possible. And I just posted about this with the whole like migration of Webflow to vibe coded websites, and the commentary around that is fascinating because organizations are just jumping on like the shiniest new thing. Honestly, 12 months from now they're going to be back on Webflow because they're going to realize that they needed a CMS to begin with. They were solving the wrong problem. So I think this is the same thing. Companies are they're moving too fast without pumping the brakes and saying, we need a design system. We need a single source of truth for everything from positioning, tone, ICP, copy, color palette, typography, brand assets, like logo, right? No one is sitting back and saying, if we're going to thrive in the next, like thrive as a next generation business in the future with working in AI, what do we need? Well, the first thing is a system, and that system has to set the context for anyone and anything, i.e., robots, working through the system or deploying content and changes within your business. So pump the brakes, hit the pause button, whatever you got to do. Like moving fast to try the tech is absolutely meaningless if you do not have the foundation to support those changes. That's
Yeah,
my
makes sense.
that's my thought.
Yeah, I think like in terms of fixing all this stuff, fix it all upstream, not downstream. Like we said, it just gets more expensive. I think there's no real quick hit tip here for fixing these issues other than you just have to get serious about process. And sometimes, there's people, I believe there's a lot of people within organizations that are feeling it on the day to day, and in the back of their mind are thinking like, God, I wish we like had built some sort of like process or framework around this. And I think those are the people that need to start doing that, or bring it up as a serious project, so that at minimum you could start to document some of this stuff before actually building systems or process around it. Yeah, there's in my mind, no real shortcut here.
I mean, I think the only step is to pause, take a breath, realize that you don't have what you need, and then find someone to do that work, whether it's internal or whether you hire out for it. It's really a design systems engineer that needs to come in and document what you have, where the gaps are.
All right, last um, question. What's one thing from today that you think people should sit?
All right. Yeah. What's one thing I would say? It's think of this as a blueprint. Like your business should have a roadmap. Your business should have a blueprint, and this is just part of that blueprint. It's an essential ingredient for operating as a modern business. And although we call it a design system, it is so much more than just the visual stuff that you see. It's the technical, it's the copy, it's the positioning. And then, yeah, it's the UI, it's the assets, it's all of that stuff. And it is the blueprint for operating as a modern business in this day and age.
Yeah, that's great advice. All right, let's call it there. So for the next episode, we're going to jump into what a design system actually is, what it looks like inside a real company, how it connects to things like web, product, and brand. My name is Marcello. Symon. We are founders of Tennis, B2B website design and product development company. Yeah, subscribe if you're interested in more content like this. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, guys. See ya.